The Celeste Esoterica contest is a contest featuring 37 submissions, which is pretty crazy. Its entire theme is pretty open-ended, simply requiring your map to be weird, atmospheric, and esoteric. So I took a moment, thought about it in my head, and decided, you know what, I think I'm going to play some of these. Now, at the time of writing this script, the maps have not been judged and ranked yet, so I'm not going to be reviewing the top ranked maps like I did in the Breeze contest. Instead, I simply chose out some maps that looked interesting, played through them, and the ones that stuck out the most to me are going to be talked about here. Just like before, there is no intent of discrediting any of the maps submitted to this, but for the sake of my time and the length of this video, I will only be talking about the ones that stood out to me the most. Go play through some of the maps in this contest and make the judgments yourself if you so wish. First, let's talk about Mayflower. This is a map by Nyan. In fact, it's his second submission into Esoterica contest. His first was this map called Fountain. You can go play for it yourself, but let's just say I didn't find it quite as interesting as Mayflower. So, if you've seen or played through the Breeze contest yourself, you know that Nyan ended up winning the first place spot with his map The Nothing Man back in that contest. And while I can't say for sure if Mayflower beats out that map in quality, I definitely saw a handful of similarities and just a general shared vibe between the two maps. The gameplay was quite simple and laid back for the entire thing, and its story was mostly articulated through background text and occasional dialogue cutscenes, all presented very abstractly. So pretty much I didn't end up understanding a whole lot about what it was trying to tell, but that's fine. I'm sure the intent was for the story to be left largely up to personal interpretation anyways. What I can comment on more concretely is the structure of the map. The whole map is technically 7 separate maps, but they behave pretty much like how checkpoints behave in a linear progression-based map. They all present you with a different environment and tell a different chapter of the story, with most of the speaking being done by these fellas over here, a talking flower and a talking sun. That love each other for some reason. Yeah, I don't know bro, make your own conclusions here. Also, text messages like these that pop up throughout the map are honestly quite intimidating. I've experienced some pretty hot weather, and the thought of this room slowly getting hotter and hotter and burning Madeline alive is quite scary. You Americans just wouldn't get it. Anyway, my least favorite part was this section with the Elytra wings here, but that's only really because I suck at Elytra gameplay in all honesty. The map concludes with a phone call with this person here, who allegedly isn't called May, and you fall for like 2 minutes straight while a song plays in the background.
This is magic to and fro. Please give me one last show.
Very nice map. I don't care how much meaning of the story I might have missed, this was really fun to play through regardless. Have you ever wanted to visit a nice, quiet space all to yourself to simply relax and enjoy some fresh, warm water? Now you can with Flagpole 1UP's map Indoor Pool. We guarantee you a perfectly safe visit with us. You won't even have to worry about a thing. So this map. It uses Anton Blast OST. But moreover, this map is probably one of my favorite themes I've seen in this contest. It's different to the maps we've seen from before that have fully abstract settings with very little resemblance to anything in the real world, instead taking a concrete location and almost adding an esoteric vibe to it. The swimming pool aesthetic is something you'd see in like a backrooms or liminal space kind of setting, not to mention that this map absolutely reeks of chlorine, which shouldn't be possible but it somehow is here. The backrooms feel is even more amplified with this entire section, which is practically one giant maze. Definitely some sinister stuff going on around here. Now the very end of this map has you backtracking through the entire level while running away from this big wall of whatever that's trying to chase you down and kill you. I'm a bit unsure what I think about this part because the tonal shift from simply exploring and getting lost in the pool rooms to being intensely chased down is quite a big one. However, there was at least some tension being built up to this point with the room slowly getting more run down and overgrown over time. Anyway, cool map, go play it. Peek through this prism. Let it grant you perspective. Take what you will, but know. I'm Steve. And a quick warning, this segment of the video has mentions of sexism, sexual abuse, and violence. These are all very prevalent themes in this Celeste map. So, this is Angel Rib by Salted Salmon, and as I played through this, it felt like it was portraying a very strong vision. A society where there are many underlying issues that are slowly breaking it apart, particularly with tensions between men and women. The map features virtually no gameplay and a fully monochrome color scheme, with most of its focus being towards the dialogue and interactions with the in-game characters. And even at that, it didn't feel like it was necessarily trying to tell a story, but more so offering an insight into just a single day in the city. At the start of the map, you meet this old lady here who tells you about how she ended up getting into a wheelchair, explaining that the cause was from complications during her pregnancy. These complications resulted in her baby dying before it could even be born and leaving her completely paralyzed from the waist down. Even after the first interaction, I already felt horrified as to how messed up of a scenario was being portrayed here. But it gets even worse from here, because the lady talks about how her husband showed practically no care towards his wife's struggles, even increasing the amount of abuse targeted towards her. She talked about her husband requesting the surgeons to put stitches on her at the hospital for reasons, yet she was still completely dependent on this man due to her physical conditions. Another character you interact with talks about being in close contact with this entire situation and pretty much developing a hatred towards men due to this. She also admits to straight up shooting the husband dead out of sheer hate towards this person. I won't go into detail on the other interactions here, but they all feature some sort of conflict between men and women. None of the dialogue here is forced upon you or required to be interacted with. If you really wanted to get this map over with, you could just walk to the end in like 2 minutes, but you would miss out on all of the impact of this map. There isn't even a proper ending to this map. The furthest you can go is this fountain in the city garden that has a message engraved on it, but it doesn't feature a proper end trigger or anything like that. This map is just so real. Every interaction feels like you're speaking with a real person who's gone through real struggles, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if stuff like this has happened before, where small communities are slowly broken apart by sexism and domestic abuse. Some may make a criticism that this map is unreasonably extreme, but really, I think this makes this map's message conveyed much more effectively. All the warnings are there in the description, and you definitely need to be in the right state of mind before you play this. Alright, for the next map, we're going into negative mode. So unlike Angel Rib, which focused almost entirely on its storytelling, Negative Space by Yoshochobi7 is almost entirely focused on its gameplay. And I have to warn you right off the bat, this is a puzzle map. Is it a good puzzle map? Absolutely it's a good puzzle map. But it is still a puzzle map. For now, let's recall back to the video I made on the Breeze Contest top 10 winners. If you watched that video, you know I liked all the maps, but I definitely had a bit of an issue with how many featured puzzles. Most of which I either debugged through or had to look up a video for. Now, puzzles are, just like any other gameplay style in Celeste, a style that caters towards an audience that has a certain taste towards that style. Maybe an acquired taste, sure, but it's still a taste and you can't simply rule out maps as bad for featuring puzzles. However, I definitely find myself preferring some types of puzzles over others. In particular, puzzles where I have absolutely no clue what I'm supposed to be doing usually end up being the least fun. The feeling of bashing your head against a wall hoping that whatever you're doing is even going to work is not a feeling I enjoy. The puzzles that I usually like the most are the ones that have a clear objective and a clear set of rules. You just need to experiment with the objects you're presented with to complete the task at hand. This is what I found Negative Space to play more like. It's a dashless map with this really cool repeating rooms gimmick, and in each room you need to get to this black thing through the use of the Theocrystals and block switches that are given to you. Every next room felt intimidating, but you could always experiment around with the things provided and make your way towards a solution, which actually made these puzzles feel extremely engaging. Like for example, this room looked really hard and complicated, but if you found where you were supposed to be going and worked backward from there, you could start to form a way forward. To get to the teleporter, I'd have to move this lung block from out of this spot, which would mean I'd need to have this orange block deactivated, which would mean I'd have to get one of the Theocrystals onto an orange switch, and from there you can start experimenting with ways to try to get to that point. I don't know how hard this map was aimed to be. Execution wise it was beginner, but the puzzle aspect made it feel more akin to an expert or grandmaster map, considering it took me over 2 hours to beat. I found this map falls short mostly as an actual Esoterica map. It has the atmosphere sure, but I didn't find a whole lot of story or deeper meaning to be interpreted, which is honestly fine, but I did find that the maps with a depiction of a narrative or something similar to that left a stronger impact on me. However, for now, I'll leave it at that for Negative Space. Credits for making a puzzle map that I actually enjoyed. Before we go on, I want you to have a think about these words for a second. Tranquility, reflection, illusion, comparison, isolation, pressure. They're all abstract thoughts. What do you think when you hear these words? What do you feel when you hear these words? Some of these words may bring back good memories and happy experiences. Others may bring back memories of discomfort, dissatisfaction, and pain. But one thing they all share in common is that they are ideas depicted in spooky Celeste map Aesthetica. Yeah, so here's Aesthetica. And the first thing I want to comment on is that this map plays way more like an art gallery than it does a Celeste map. It only takes 15 or so minutes to complete, and features close to no gameplay. This map is a showcase of artistic expression than it is anything else. There are 10 abstract concepts depicted in this map, each of which are shown in one room per concept without much player input required at all, and can be viewed in any order you wish, just like an art gallery. A lot of these are pretty creative. The door for nostalgia shows yourself in photos you'd see from an old-fashioned photo book, the door for pressure has the entire room slowly caving in on you, and the door for comparison shows a split screen between two rooms decorated at different levels of quality, presumably comparing the creator's previous works. My favorite one is the door for thoughts, where you are placed on a notebook that has someone's thoughts jotted down as words. The word fall literally falls, the word crumble literally crumbles, the word disappear literally disappears, the word hurt literally hurts you, and the word move literally moves. It's so awesome. This map is so short, yet has such a good deco style, and it's also the Esoterica contest map that received the most amount of likes, which isn't too surprising. Spooky never misses! Next we got Little Spoon by Third. There isn't actually a little spoon in this map, I call false advertising. But seriously, I don't know what even is in this map other than a whole lot of darkness. This was probably the single most abstract Esoterica contest map because the whole time I had absolutely no clue what I was playing. The feel of this map is definitely a bit unsettling. I don't know how, but the very dark color scheme this map goes for evoked that sense of being lost in darkness way stronger than I would have ever expected. It's almost like all of the light fizzled out and you're left alone in the remnants of what is now the world. There's bits and pieces of dialogue scattered throughout the map, but it's all just as abstract as anything else. Fern looked across the room. "Who are you?" they asked. "No one important." "And what's that loud noise?" "No sound you can't handle, I'm sure." Fern paced across the grass. "Who are you?" they asked. "Nothing special." "And what's that horrible smell?" "No smell you can't handle, I'm sure." Fern woke up and yawned. "Who are you?" they asked. "No idea special." "And what's that uncomfortable feeling?" "No feeling you can't handle, I'm sure." Fern discovered the new world. "Who are you?" Yeah, I couldn't even begin to tell you what this means. Towards the end of the map, I picked up a berry and it gave me this ominous message saying, "You have sealed your fate." Which kinda spooked me out, but nothing really happened, so I don't know. This whole thing really felt like a fever dream in a way that no other Celeste map really made me feel. Little Spoon was a very solid experience all around, though a bizarre one at that. There are so many things wrong with everything, it's just that I can't say any of them unless I'm currently experiencing them. So many things that could be better, if only a small change were made. It makes me sad to see no change in my life. Sad to know that almost nothing has gotten better. Nothing, in the most important of wrongs, will get better unless changes are able to be made. This is why I have meltdown. And now, for my personal favorite map of them all. Dream Overdose by Ricky Uwu. I can't fully lay my finger on what makes this my favorite in particular, other than just how much fun I had playing this. This map is mostly non-linear and has you exploring through different dreams of Madeline which are accessed through doors and stuff. This map is based off the game Yumi Nikki, which I haven't ever played, but at this point I can tell I would enjoy the game quite a bit based off how much Yumi Nikki inspired stuff I enjoy. I really enjoyed the unique approach this map had towards progression, where there were 7 objects I had to find, each of which had some personal connection towards yourself. At least, I think that's what the story was trying to depict. The choice of music in this map was also really good, like, I don't know, this map was just such a blast to play through. There was this part which had you casually playing through a resort style checkpoint until suddenly, BAM, this evil thing was trying to chase you and kill you and you had to run for your life. There was this part which gave big indoor pool vibes with, for some reason, the water being turned into grape soda. Surely that's what it is. There were these bizarre floaty space sections with a strange ethereal sounding song by Tally Hall. Honestly, I gotta give credit to this map for showing me a bunch of cool songs, though some of them are so obscure I couldn't find them anywhere on the internet. I'm guessing it's because a lot of them are Japanese songs, but even then, the fact that Google straight up gives up when I search up these songs is really strange. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that the amount of diversity in environments is what made this experience never feel boring or repetitive. And you know what? That sounds about good for all the thoughts I wanted to share for this map. Alrighty, so that means we're done with all the maps, right? I managed to get through them all in only 10 hours. Could have been a whole lot worse really thinking about it. Surely there isn't another map that I've been intentionally not talking about that more than doubles my time on this contest. Right? This contest has only been a thing for, I don't know, a month or so? There's simply no way that any of the maps here can take me an unreasonably long amount of time. Right? Welcome to Megalophobia. This mod has been started on 6th January 2025. How big can it possibly be? So, funny story with this map, it was the first Esoterica contest map that I downloaded and played. Everything about this mod looked really interesting on the Olympus page, and especially seeing that there were 2+ hours of custom-made music for it. And it was going pretty well, seeming like I could be done in not too much time, at least for the first hour and a half. However, it was soon made clear to me what this map actually was and what its name entailed. The sheer amount of content here was intended to overwhelm and intimidate players, as a sort of megalophobia. This map is the size of a full collab lobby with 30 separate smaller maps that make up the full thing. And at this point, I thought that it was just not reasonable to clear this whole thing if I wanted to get this review done, so I said to myself that I would only talk about the first couple of hours of the map here. But that did not sit right with me at all. It didn't feel like I was doing this map justice, only talking about a small subset of what it had to offer. If the map was intended to be overwhelmingly big, I would take on that challenge and clear everything that it had. And so, after I was done with all the other Esoterica maps that looked interesting to me, I put in 13 more hours for the sake of clearing every map in Megalophobia. I didn't get any of the optional content, by the way, so none of the berries or hearts or anything. However, now I feel much more qualified to review this, and ultimately, my feelings are quite mixed on this. The first thing I'll mention is that the creator of this map is completely anonymous, with the creator on Game Banana simply being titled Welcome to Megalophobia, just like the name of the map. Pretty early on, this map talks about its nature as a project made by someone with an alt account through the use of screenshots of Discord messages. A similar kind of meta-commentary thing comes back later in the map as well, and I think the fact that this map is aware of its own existence, as a Celeste map made by a real but anonymous creator, is an aspect I really enjoyed. The Discord screenshots and the dialogue spoken by this character, who is presumably supposed to be some sort of projection of the creator, all talk in detail about the struggles and insecurities that a creator may face when making a project so different to anything else in Celeste, a feeling I'm sure a lot of mappers can relate to. The aspects of this map I didn't quite enjoy happened after you finish the prelude of this map and get to the lobby. Or lobbies. There's actually 5 different lobbies in Megalophobia, all of which feature a handful of maps to play. Most of these maps are all abstract, have darkened visuals and ominous music, and seem to make their deeper meanings presented rather cryptically, if any deeper meaning even exists. This isn't my gripe with this map, by the way. In a lot of cases it works really well. An example would be this graveyard map, where Madeline has lost a friend or relative and contemplates whether her feelings are disrespectful towards the deceased person, as if she should be feeling more grief than she really is, which was an interesting bit of self-reflection. My main problems are that the gameplay is kinda just annoying to play in some cases. I don't want to be super negative towards this map just because some of the gameplay didn't click for me, but there were multiple moments where I considered dropping the map because I was getting frustrated by some of the gameplay. Mostly looking at this blue lab level, this jewel level, and this weird ass corner jump hell level. Like, we are not playing goddamn floating oil rig, you can calm down with all this. Maybe it didn't even worsen my overall experience, maybe it made the journey to beating all the maps feel more satisfying or earned, but in the moment you just so badly want to call it a bad map not worthy of your time. I do not think this is a bad map just because a few parts pissed me off, to be clear here. The parts that I enjoyed the most always ended up being ones with strong atmospheres or weird esoteric dialogue. Think of like exploring a strange art gallery while a clam occasionally pops up and talks to you about metaphysics and the nature of the entire universe and human consciousness. Also, I want to point out that this clam is called Fart Smeller in the mod files. I thought that was funny. Or maybe you'd prefer traveling across a lake on a move block while a deep blue rain pours down across the screen, so thick you can barely make yourself out. Oh, and I can't not talk about this one now, can I? I think this map was trying to embody the feeling of repeating a tedious daily cycle of waking up, eating, working, and then going back to sleep, and the tedium of that was definitely captured in one way or another. I thought I was making good progress, having only 3 or 4 maps left to beat, just like how I thought I was making good progress 10 hours ago before being presented with 30 unfilled entries in a progress journal. This entire thing repeated itself yet again when I saw that this map, which itself was a part of a bigger map, had 20 smaller maps inside of it. After you do each eat, work, sleep cycle, you're given one of the 20 maps to play at random. These would range from being completable in under 5 minutes, to being longer than some fully fledged standalone maps submitted to this contest. And I'm serious here. At some point this cursed map made you go through all of 7A with every entity removed, such as the spikes, spinners, refills, and springs. The maps themselves were... See, I don't want to use the word low quality here. It's just that the maps were quite plain, in a stylistic type of way. Some of them looked like they were cooked up in 10 minutes by a guy with no prior mapping experience. But that's fine. This entire thing made me feel more disconnected from the rest of the map than ever. It's like I forgot that at some point this map felt mildly coherent with some form of structured storytelling. I'm not saying this part was bad, I actually quite enjoyed it. It was just unique, I guess. The final part I want to talk about here was the very last map I played. No clue if this was intentional or not, but this map was sort of like a collection of scrapped ideas for this project. They ranged from sounding actually pretty cool to completely nonsensical. It felt like a great final insight into the creative process behind this entire thing. Welcome to Megalophobia is a journey. When you think of a big Celeste map, you think of something like 90, but this map is nothing like 90. 90 is coherent, both in its gameplay and in its story it tells. If you play Welcome to Megalophobia, most stuff simply isn't going to make a whole lot of sense. It's like if the entire Celeste community was blown apart and all that's left were little bits that try to resemble a real Celeste map, but ultimately fail. What the hell? And remember kids, shoot for the stars, but don't get too close to the sun. You might just burn yourself and fall back down to the ground, a mere husk of your former glory. That's all from me, kids. Stay safe. So, that will be all for this contest. If you have not already, you should play this contest. Some of the maps won't be as impactful if you've already seen what there is to offer, but this contest has plenty more maps for you to find. I'll leave a link in the description. These contests are always super fun and interesting to me, and I can't wait to see what else this community makes in the future. That's all now, good night.